Okay, welcome 601. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm Dr. Krista, for those of you who do not know me, and for those of you who do know me, I'm glad to see you. There'll be more people popping in along the way as well. So tonight we're going to be talking about really how we can work on our bloating and IBS naturally. I know it's a super common thing to be dealing with day to day. Most people who I see who come into my office are telling me that they're suffering with some kind of digestive symptom, especially bloating, constipation, diarrhea, maybe some nausea or pain. All of those things are very common. So let's talk about what we can do about it. So tonight, by the end of this workshop, you're really going to have 4 different strategies to naturally relieve bloating and IBS without having to take harsh medications. And there are 3 factors we're going to talk about that are blocking your gut from really healing. And there's simple steps to really take to fix them. You're also going to receive a free gift in your email for attending tonight. So thanks so much for using your time to pop on. So let's talk about some digestive symptoms. Very commonly, like I mentioned, bloating is probably the top one I hear. Gas, reflux, upset stomach, constipation, loose stool are all common ones that I have. So just take a moment and think for yourself, what check engine lights, I call them, or symptoms are you feeling, especially in regards to your digestive symptoms? And you can put them in the chat as well. Or if you have questions that come up, feel free to put them in the chat and I'll take a look at that as we go along. But does anyone here have some of these things? Let me know in the chat if so. So some related symptoms that aren't necessarily digestive symptoms, but often have to do with your gut being off or imbalanced are things like having low energy, low motivation, maybe some belly fat or weight gain in general. Stress is a big one, of course. Mood and hormonal imbalances because the hormones and the neurotransmitters are made in the gut. Inflammation is another big one because your immune system is housed in your gut and that controls your inflammation. Blood pressure, cholesterol, even thyroid disease can be from not having the right balance in your gut. Your gut actually converts your thyroid hormones. So if it's off, then it can throw your thyroid off. Menopausal symptoms as well. So again, just think for yourself, what things do you have going on that could be related to your gut? And let's talk about how we can start to work on it. So there are 3 different types of stress, and these are the things that are impacting you every single day and are also impacting your gut health. So I know when I say stress, a lot of people think mental emotional stress, but there's actually a few different types. And some of you who know me have heard this before. So first and foremost, we have our emotional stress, right? So whether it be a boss or a colleague or a family member who's causing tension, that can be problematic for your gut health because it causes inflammation, it causes your cortisol to rise, which causes more inflammation. Then we also have chemical stress. So this can come from the air we're breathing, the food we're eating, the water we're drinking, medications we're taking are innately chemicals. So they can affect our gut health as well and cause the gut lining and the cells to break apart, which is what we call leaky gut, and that leads to issues down the road. We also can have physical stress. So this is when you have an injury or inflammation in the gut, or maybe you're carrying extra weight. That is a physical stress to the body. So all of these types of stress have to be worked on. A lot of people come in and they'll be like, I'm super bloated. I feel nauseous. I don't know what to eat because everything triggers me. And I'll ask them about their stress and they're like, oh, no, I'm not stressed, right? But they're just thinking mental emotional stress. They're not thinking about all the other types of stress that could be affecting them. So think about this in your own life too, if that may be something that's going on. I know for me, I actually had a lot of digestive symptoms, especially right before I went to medical school. I was working 2 jobs, I was doing prerequisites. I was running down the sidewalk while shoving food in my mouth in between jobs or driving and like slurping a smoothie really quickly. And I developed a lot of digestive symptoms. I would have extreme bloating. I would have pain. I would have to lay on my rug in the gas position, which is when you have your bum up and your face on the ground to try to get air to move up and out. And so I eventually realized with the help of a naturopath that really that stress, not focusing on what I was eating, really just running at the same time as eating or driving at the same time as eating or working at the same time as eating was really causing my body to be confused. It didn't know that it was supposed to digest. So that food would sit in my intestines and actually ferment and cause this bloating. I also had some bacterial overgrowth. So there's different things we can check for depending on what's going on, but stress is a huge component here. So when you're thinking about healing your gut and really working on these symptoms, it's important that you realize what your why is. Why do you want to feel better? Why does working on your gut help you, but also who else does it affect in your life, right? Do you have kids that you're caring for, grandkids that you're caring for? Do you have elderly parents you're caring for, or even just your colleagues? All these people are affected by how you're feeling emotionally, but also health-wise. So super important that you think about this when making changes for your health, because that can really propel you through some hard times and making changes. It's not always easy to make changes, but if you have that really strong why, maybe it is you want to be a good role model for your kids. Maybe you want to be able to travel again with your spouse without feeling held back. Maybe you want to start a business, right? There's so many different whys that you may have. So really important to hold on to those. So the missing puzzle pieces here for really starting to solve this bloating, these IBS symptoms, are working on what we call the pillars of health. And there are 4 different ones that I'm going to talk about tonight. So we'll talk about nutrition and detoxification, energy balance, and hormones. Of course, this is mentorship right now, you hopping on to learn about these things. So that's the 5th pillar. But first and foremost, we have to be working on nutrition if we're experiencing digestive symptoms. And again, this could be things like hormonal imbalances or brain fog or depression, or it could be the more obvious bloating or reflux. So with nutrition, there's so many blanket diets out there that they say, eat this, don't eat that, but it's not specified to you particularly. So that's what we really have to figure out is which foods are best for you, which foods are not going to cause inflammation in your body so that you have the best chance of keeping those cells intact in your intestines, not having leaky gut, not having this overgrowth of bacteria that's causing all of this bloating and gas. So number one thing I would suggest if you haven't made dietary changes at this point is really to eliminate sugar, gluten, and dairy. These are time and time again the most inflammatory foods that I see for most people. Again, everyone is different, but it's really good to give your body a test removing these things for 4 weeks or so and seeing how you feel. Do your symptoms improve? Does your brain fog get better? Do you feel like you have more energy? Do you have less cramps in your period, for example, right? So everything can change just by eliminating our obstacles that are triggering us. So I know a lot of people struggle with figuring out what they should be eating day to day. And really, what I suggest is focusing on 3 things. First is fat. You really want 50% of your calories per day to come from fat. So you want healthy fats. So things like avocados, olives, nuts and seeds are great, or any of the oils like coconut oil, avocado oil, olive oil. Then you want to make sure you're getting enough protein. So 25% of your calories should come from protein each and every day. And this is the one that I see people miss often. You're just not getting enough grams of protein per day. So depending on your age and your sex, that may differ in terms of grams, but really aim for about 25% of your calories. And then, of course, the third thing I would focus on is vegetables. This is really unlimited. I tell people to look at this picture of this plate here, where at least half your plate is vegetables. And then the other quarters are your fat and your protein. Carbs are really a side piece, right? Vegetables can be carbs in and of themselves, so you may not need any additional carbs, but they really shouldn't be a main focus on your plate. So when you are making these changes, a good thing to think about, I know it can be difficult, but one of our practice members said it really well. She said, nothing tastes as good as healthy feels, right? If you could feel your best, would it really matter what you were eating? Right? That's the big thing. Yes, there's joy in life that we get from little things, but the idea is let's do our best to have the foundations in place to eat as best as we can most of the time so that our body can handle little trips to the bakery here and there or whatever it may be. But we don't want our body to be at a place of overflowing inflammation that every little thing triggers you. So when we're eliminating things like sugar to really get rid of bloating, oftentimes people will say, I can't do that because I have too many cravings. So first and foremost, having that breakdown of the fat, protein, and vegetables is really going to keep your blood sugar stable so you won't have as much cravings. But the other thing to know is just research has shown that cravings only really last for 2 minutes. So if you can distract yourself, do something different, maybe hydrate, drink a whole glass of water and wait a little bit and see if you're still having that craving. Because oftentimes it's just actually you being thirsty. Or substitute something, if you want some sugar, have a low glycemic fruit like berries that have high nutrient content but low sugar. And that can really help satiate that craving as well. The next pillar is detoxification. So, a lot of people aren't doing what they need to do every single day to support their detox pathways. Really, your liver, your kidneys, your gut, your skin are your detox organs. And these are the things that are clearing out toxins, whether they come from the environment or your food or cleaning products or facial products, right? It really could be anything. Um, so these organs can get overburdened, and then they don't process things like our hormones correctly, or they don't give us enough energy. Like our kidneys are where our adrenal glands sit, so they provide energy for us. And then again, our gut is where our immune system is housed, our hormones are made, our neurotransmitters are made, and our skin is really a reflection of what's going on internally. So we need to support these organs. How we do this is through specific foods that you can eat for these organs. So I'd highly suggest focusing on root vegetables. These are really great for your liver and your kidneys, or you can even do teas, things like dandelion root tea, nettle tea. Just getting those in every day can be really helpful for your skin and your kidneys, your gut, your liver. Really focusing on whole foods, of course. That way you get the right micronutrients to really support the rest, repair, and restore of these organs. The next pillar is really our energy balance, and this includes things like getting in adequate exercise, making sure we're sleeping well. But as we mentioned earlier, number one thing for really healing your gut is making sure you're addressing stress. So I would suggest as an action step for this pillar that you really start using what we call four square breathing to really help you surprisingly with things like bloating and things like bowel movements. We actually had a practice member recently who she would sit on the toilet for hours. She could not go to the bathroom. And she even had a fistula too, so that complicated things more. But once she really started focusing on her breath throughout the day, but also when she was having a bowel movement, she had a much more easeful time. So a lot of times we forget to breathe, especially when we're having a bowel movement, and we actually need to breathe to get into that parasympathetic state for our body to relax enough to be able to let go. But that can also help with the bloating because, again, if your body feels less stressed, it can actually digest better. So, four square breathing is you breathe in for 4 counts, you hold for 4 counts, you breathe out for 4 counts, and you hold for 4 counts. And you want to do a few rounds of this anytime you think of it during the day. For myself, I have to have a trigger to remind myself. So anytime that I walk through a doorway, whether it be in the house or my car, that's what reminds me, okay, focus on your breath. The next pillar is really hormones. And as you can see with these body types, there's different type of bloating that can occur depending on what's going on with your hormones. Again, your hormones are made in your gut, so you have to be addressing your gut health in order to address your hormonal health. But a lot of times when people are having issues with estrogen or their adrenal glands or thyroid or, fatty liver, it has to do with what's going on in our gut. So super important that we do some testing to really figure out what is going on with your hormones. What's the root cause here to the bloating? Is it stress? Is it something to do with your hormones? Is it something to do with the food you're eating, right? There's a lot of information we can glean by doing the right types of testing, which isn't always blood, right? Because blood just tells us what the levels are of your hormones in your blood in that moment in time, not what they are later in the week or months or what they are in your tissues. So sometimes we have to do more digging. So that's really where that mentorship piece comes in, is really helping you figure out what the heck is going on here? Why am I so bloated? Why do I look pregnant all the time? Why do I have low energy and I can't eat what I want to eat, right? I just feel super restricted. So we have to be working on all of these pieces together if we're really going to see a difference in our bloating and our IBS symptoms. And again, you have to do them all. You can't just focus on nutrition only because that's not going to be enough, especially if there's stress going on. You can't just work on exercise and not work on food and not work on detoxification because that's not going to balance your hormones correctly. So those are the four things for you to really work on. Again, nutrition, detoxification, energy balance, which includes that stress component, and hormones. And the three things that are likely causing a lot of your bloating have to do with those three types of stress. So emotional, physical, and chemical. And if you want to dive more into this, then I highly suggest that you book a free 15-minute call with us so that we can get more information, figure out what kind of gut type you have, because there's different types that need different treatment plans. And so it's super important that we're addressing this in the right way, because again, someone who's bloated because there's stuff going on with hormones is going to need a different treatment plan than someone who's bloated because of food they're eating, right? So super important for us to glean more information from you. So I'm going to pop a link in the chat for everyone where you can book a free 15-minute call with us so we can learn more about you, what you're experiencing, maybe some of the things you've tried in the past that have worked or haven't worked, and then see if it might be a good fit for us to work together and really find you a good solution to your bloating and your IBS. Because the good news is it actually can be solved. A lot of these symptoms can be reversed. You just have to be removing the right obstacles. We had a practice member recently who was in a super stressful job. She's actually a scientist for a pharmaceutical company, and she could not leave the house without taking medication because otherwise she would have bowel movement issues, incontinence, right? She had a lot of urgency and loose stool, like I see Maria mentioned here as well. So she was able to really reduce that medication. In addition, she had no energy. She was depressed. She was able to get off her antidepressants. She was able to have enough energy to ride all three of her horses in a row, whereas before she could only ride one. And she lost like 75 pounds, which was huge for her. Imagine how bloated she felt with all of that extra weight. So definitely schedule a call with us. Find 15 minutes in your day where we can get to know you a little bit more and see if this might be a good fit for you. But I thank you all so much for taking this time in your evening to learn more about bloating and what might be causing it. And I'm happy to help you if you reach out and schedule a call. So thank you all so much. Start working on those pillars of health, and I will see you next time.